We're really excited to add Will to our quarterback room. Really impressive resume as I've gotten to know Will during this process. Obviously, he's played in a lot of big games, and when I got a chance to meet with him and spend some time with him at his pro day, just came away even more impressed as the person that Will Howard is. We're just excited, again, to add to our quarterback room and opportunity to work with him.
Arthur, did you evaluate the entirety of the season, and did something change with him the last 4 games?
Well, I think it's important. Any player, when you're looking at him, you want to see that, because it's the same thing in our league. Guys start hot, and you may go into a lull. You always want to see how people respond to adversity. Certainly in the stage, in college football, he played on the biggest stage, and you lose a game like that against Michigan, and for those guys, it says a lot about Ryan Day and those players in that program. It was a really impressive group. Going to dinner with that whole group. Jack was there that night. Had a lot of great players, but the way you see those guys respond, and certainly Will in that kind of leadership role, and he played his best football at the end of the year. You see him in big moments, those critical possession downs, even in the national championship game. Momentum plays to kind of end the game. Extremely excited to work with Will.
Arthur, when you draft a quarterback in the middle of day 3, maybe at the beginning it's going to start as a developmental piece. What are the keys in terms of helping him unlock his full potential?
Yeah, that's there's been a lot of discussion about the development of quarterbacks, and I think the one thing that I've enjoyed, certainly the last couple of years, I think the third quarterback rule helps a lot of guys. There's more jobs available. That was kind of the old model. You go back and look at some of the things that Green Bay did years, and some of the quarterbacks, you got a chance to you got longer, runway to work with somebody. I think that's critical, having that third QB, however you want to use it. Now that lets you elevate, but regardless, you need the time with these guys. There's always a transition for what they've been asked to do, and certainly how you manage reps, preseason snaps, like they got to play. And but having guys that, given the opportunity to hang around certainly helps. And then, guy emerges, you've seen that happen before. Best guy's got to play. But extremely excited, chance to work with him.
Knowing that you wanted to add to the room here
Sure.
in the draft at some point for the quarterbacks, I think it's round 3 through 5. There are a bunch of pretty accomplished guys that came off the board. What makes you comfortable and Will that you got a guy that can still fulfill what you were looking for here for this round?
Yeah, I just look back at his resume, the way he's wired. You get through this, and there's so much attention on the draft. Obviously, it's such a premium position. These guys get picked apart. More than anybody, probably pro sports. But really looking at Will, his maturity level, what he accomplished this year, going from Kansas State and then stepping into that role at Ohio State and winning the national championship. Those are things you see him do on the actual tape. You take some of the guesswork about his mental toughness, and then obviously the transition he's going to have in the NFL for any of these guys. And we got to make sure we have the right setup for him and give him every opportunity to succeed with all the quarterbacks in that room.
What did you learn about him maybe you didn't see watching those college playoff games?
Yeah, it's one thing to look at the tape. It's like nothing replaces that. What do you want to, real reconnaissance, however you want to say it, the human interaction. Years pass, Zooms, they help, but when you get to spend time with somebody, you get to learn what they're about, really how they interact with their teammates, what other people think about them at the facility. It came away, all of us did, extremely impressed with them.
Two more questions.
You guys just added your third quarterback to the roster. Omar mentioned, adding a fourth.
Yeah, absolutely.
At some point. How do you go about constructing your offensive plan for an upcoming season when you're this far into the off season and you're still building that quarterback room?
Yeah, well, it's your job. That's just going back to my history. You've had to adapt, and it forces you to get a lot better. And you understand that. Go back to this. It's not one size fits all. And as you assess where guys are, regardless if you had a veteran already established, it was a returning starter, when you're always trying to work the back end of the roster, because history will tell you during the season, eventually you end up playing a lot of guys. That's why it's so critical this time of year when those guys come in, and really during training camp, to make sure you're trying to develop everybody. And that's what I really do like about 16 people on the practice squad, the third quarterback rule. It really just helps. I think it's good for the game of football and getting these guys, and that's what people want to see. They want to see good quarterback play, and so you try to use all those rules and roster mechanism to your advantage.
All right, how much value do you put on a guy who is a champion, who has won at a high level, and is it different for a quarterback in maybe a different position?
Well, I think it's a lot of those guys, obviously the great players come from all over, you see Hall of Famers from small schools and whatnot, but certainly it helps. He stepped into that role and took advantage of that opportunity on arguably the biggest stage in college football. He's been in pressure moments. I've never been in person to Ohio State, Michigan, but I've watched enough of them. That's as close as you get to a big-time NFL atmosphere. And then certainly now the playoff model, season's longer, so you get a lot, going back to that question about the totality of the season, a lot of games to play. And it's really, it's not just the physical stuff. Sometimes it's the mental part that wears guys down, and certainly he proved that he has that part of his game.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.